Welcome to News with a View, a Fat Cat production. Today is July 15th, 2025, and this is episode 104. I'm your host, John A. Costa. Let me just squiggle in here a little bit. Today we're going to discuss just a few items of importance. One, a Supreme Court gives a decision on Trump's Department of Education. Then we have the ICE ruling. Well, a judges in California cease operations of ICE. Fox News legal analyst who said that will hit the dustbin. And Biden's chief of staff reportedly gave approval for auto pen pardons on final days in office, which opens questions on, you know, is that allowed? Well, we're going to go ahead and hit that and discuss that. This is my other headset. I do not need that. I got my coffee. Hopefully I don't spill it. It hasn't happened yet, but we know that day is coming. I am expecting a phone call, so I might have to just quickly look at that to see what it's about. All right, let's start. Supreme Court lets Trump fire hundreds of education department workers and dismantle the agency. This is coming from USA Today. And like I said, in this show, in my show, I go to liberal news sources. I go to far right news sources. Then I try to find something in the middle, maybe The Hill or something, but I don't even like that. And then I use common sense to explain it, and then see if the pieces all fit, and is it allowed? And when I say is it allowed, the Constitution. And when the Constitution, the United States Constitution, gets questioned, only the Supreme Court, or as I call them, the robes, are the ones to make the final decision. Now, just because something goes or might be presented to the Supreme Court for an opinion or ruling, it doesn't mean they necessarily have to hear it. By them not hearing it, that is them saying in a very nice word that there's nothing to explain. It's been discharged accordingly. So sometimes when it hits the Supreme Court from a lower court, federal court, and it sends it back to the lower court, that's a signal that they might have gotten it wrong. And maybe you want to revisit it and look at it again, and that happens too. And sometimes they just go, no, we got it right. And they're not happy with it. And now, you have to tell them and tell us, where we stand. So that's the way this works. So in the USA Today, I'm stumbling on words today. An ideologically divided Supreme Court. Now, isn't that a nice way? The Supreme Court is not supposed to be that way. So it really, they just rule on this. Now, you have people say there's liberals, there are conservatives, And it's not really that way because you've had unanimous decisions by them. You've had close decisions, 8-1, 6-2. Seven to two, you know, and some the other way. You've had justices that said, "Hey, I'm staying out of this one," you know, unless it really gets tight. And then you have the head of the Supreme Court that then breaks a tie, but if it happens. So the court's 3 liberal justices opposed the order, the latest win for President Donald Trump at the High Court. It's not the High Court. It is the highest court in the land. Their decision of the Supreme Court is final. It cannot be appealed, though the Supreme Court can always revisit a decision made by them or by prior Supreme Courts. So it's almost like an appeal, but it's not called an appeal. Justice Stoudemire said the majority handed Trump the power to repeal laws passed by Congress by firing all those necessary to carry them out. That is a very, very narrow view. Because under the president's executive power, he has the right to set levels inside these agencies. If you look at the statutes inside the government's handling of employees, like the OPM, Office of Personal Management, there are rules that say the head of the agencies have the right to do such, such, and such, and that's unquestionable. Even with a union contract, that at the end of the day, the administrative people that run those agencies can go, we're cutting back the money, and that's a legit reason. We're firing you, lay you off, terminating you, no longer need your services, whatever they want to call it. At the end of the day, these people are out. And I certainly understand, coming from a union, working with a union, working on contracts for said union, understanding what a collective bargaining agreement is, a CBA, and realizing what the company's rights under that CBA they can do. They don't have to prove they're losing money. If they say they're losing money and that's the reason they're doing it, then they've opened up the door to say, well, show me. But if they're just saying, we're doing this as a cost saving, there's not much you can do about it. You might mitigate some of it. You might say, do you really have to let 100 go? Can you let 30 go and see how it that works out, you might hire 20 of them back. If you get rid of 100, you guys might lose the whole kit and caboodle here. And but again, that's management rights. So she went on to say the majority is either willfully blind to the implication of its ruling or naive. Stoudemire wrote in her 19-page dissent, but either way, the threat to our Constitution's separation of power is great. Well, it's not a threat to the power of the Constitution. The power of the Constitution is the Constitution. And the words of such. And when you take a look at the words, the intent of those words as they were written, as they were proposed, it gave the president the executive power. And this is not just, for President Trump, and when President Trump is gone and there's a Democrat in there one day, that president will have the same power. And I keep saying, Trump is not testing the limits of the Constitution. He is defining what the Constitution is. And the Constitution has clauses in it that it can be amended, repealed. Amendments can be repealed. You have to have faith in the Supreme Court. And you have to have faith that the system works. And if you don't have that, I don't know what to tell you. I don't know what to tell you. It is very, very likely a win for the Constitution and a win for the president. I said that this was one that he could win. I didn't like how he went about it on the 20th of January. I thought that this would be a legal challenge. But after reading everything on what the president can do with the government agencies, I kind of started going towards the justices will use the words and the intent. And he'll win this. He can do it. Because by not allowing the president to do it, then agencies don't have to listen to the executive branch. They have no boss. Whoever is approved by the Senate to run these agency heads, they have more power than the president. And that's not the way it was set up. Not the way it was set up. You want to change that? Go right ahead. You know how to do it. But you can't change it by challenging what the words really are. It doesn't work that way. It has, and sometimes, and I said some of the things Trump wanted to do, I go, you ain't doing. You ain't doing it unless you repeal or make amendments to the amendments. You just can't do it. So, McMahon said today, the Supreme Court again confirmed the obvious. The President of the United States, as the head of the executive branch, has the ultimate authority to make decisions about staffing levels, administration, organization, and day-to-day operations of federal agency. Education Secretary Linda McMahon said in a statement. McMahon. Yeah, McMahon. I wish I didn't butcher names, and I wish I sat there and I pronounced every name and just did it over and over again until it rolled off my tongue. But what this does now, I remember last week, the Supreme Court gave Trump the ability to let people go in the State Department. And if that was the case, then all these things will follow. Every agency has the same language on who, at the end of the day, is the boss. You've seen those charts where it starts here, and then it branches here, and then there's branches that go out. And you know what that's called. It's very easy. And what the Democrats were trying to do was really stall and try to figure out a way around the Constitution. And they hit a roadblock. Now they had, I'm sure if there were more liberal judges in there, they might have had a shot at slowing it down, but I honestly believe that two of the justices who are liberals are not progressive liberals. And they take the approach that the Constitution is a living, breathing thing, while the other justices, for the most part, feel that it's a rock and it's written in stone. And it's done that way so that it can't be manipulated. And there's ways to go in there and fix that. So if you wanted to say, hey, the president must have to give a 100-day notice to change or whatever. I think right now it's a 30-day notice. And, he theoretically had done that, but the way he had done it was not what I would call the perceived standard way. And he was going to get blow by on that. But again, my feeling with President Trump and all this, everything that's going on with his administration is the Democrats made him a politician. And he's now going to do and just push. Because he knows that the Democrats would fight him. If he asked them, the Democrats would fight him. If he said, I'll talk for the 30 days, the Democrats would fight him. And things wouldn't get done. And, sometimes it's better to ask for forgiveness than ask for permission. And there is no working with the current Democratic regime. They are as left as the Republicans are right. And there is no in between. There's very few people willing to step out of each one of their encirclements to try to find ground. Yep. My internet kind of jammed up there for a while, so. But I'm recording this so that I could resend it back out, so I'm not worried about the live feed too much. The major problem with the Democrats were the same problems that the Republicans had. The same problem that the Republicans had. They could not get their objectives out in a way the masses could attach to them. So they started, they started a rebranding. Remember, it was the Tea Party, and then it became MAGA. And there were a lot of Republicans that said, I like I like Trump, I like what he's saying. I'm not a MAGA. I'm not going to follow him off a cliff. But I like what he says. And I like what he wants to do. And yeah, I agree that tax cuts are good for us. Tax cuts are good for the country. Creating jobs is always a good thing. Bringing jobs back, I don't know how you do that without giving, total tax advantages to those companies. And yes, are you going to make those CEOs richer? Yeah, probably. But you're going to hire a bunch of people. AOC fought New York State to bring jobs into one of the worst areas of Manhattan that she was part of. That is literally falling apart. They have no jobs there. And Amazon wanted to build a facility there. And I'm not talking a little one, too. We're talking hundreds of millions of dollars. That would have been you'd have delis opening up, you'd have taxis in that area, you'd have the train service, which was already there. Everything was there, except the jobs. And she fought it, and finally Amazon just said, yeah, we're not doing it. We know where we're not wanted. And he moved on. And that cost, the city billions in revenue. And Cuomo was the governor at the time, and, he went crazy. He said, how could you do this? And you had de Blasio, and, these are all people that don't want you to work and don't want you to succeed. They're the ones that want to hire you. They're the ones that want to have the job for you, not private industry. And they want it so they can control you. And hey, if you like having your $50,000 a year job, just answering a phone, and you and your wife, and you work there or whatever, you both have jobs there, you're making good money, you got good medical, you got everything coming in, that will all disappear if you vote that guy in. He's going to cut it. He's going to take it away from you. I won't, because I just like the way things are. And we need these plans, and I want to take this away. If you live in a utopia, you don't need guns, right? And if we live in a utopia and you want to take heroin, well, we'll give you the heroin. Why should we? Why should we have these people selling drugs on the street and making the streets unsafe? And in our utopia, if you want to sell your body, well, we'll have an area for that, and you can sell your body. Because this is a utopia. You could do, you do what you want. As long as it's what I want. And I'm in power. And you do as I tell you to do. That's what they want. That's what they want. And we were close to that. COVID, remember the Democrats screaming that we should lock people up that didn't get the vaccine? Or some type of identification so we know who to stand 7 feet away from or not have the right to associate with them. You want to talk of how close we lost our democracy? The Democrats. The Democrats. Locked you in your houses, shut down business. They go, bodies are piling up. Well, those, 6,000 people a day die in the United States. But if you don't allow them to get picked up, of course you're going to need refrigerator trucks at hospitals. If they can't be transported to a funeral home, of course things are going to pile up. And there's going to be a backlog. All of that was a pandemic. Now, COVID was real. I'm not saying COVID was not real. But when President Trump said, hey, he came out of China, and Pelosi, racist, he's a racist. And then you find out it came out of China. Not a word from Pelosi. Not a word to say, well, all right, we knew the truth. She knew the truth. She knew the truth. And she covered it up. And she lied. I know I went off the beaten path, but I'll tell you why the Democrats are going to lose 2026 and probably 2028. It's because you don't have a plan. You think your plan is the Epstein? You think the plan that you're going to convert MAGA people over to the left? You're clueless. You are clueless. Because the fact would remain below that away that they didn't release that information. Well, neither did the Democrats when they were in there. Biden could have released it. And he didn't. He never promised he would. But he didn't. Democrats could have released that all. And I said in yesterday's show, they didn't because on that list, and there was a list. Don't care what anyone says. Those were people in there that not only gave money to the Democrats, but they gave money to the Republicans. And these were some heavyweight donors. And I'm not talking Bill Gates, but these were other people on this list. governments that gave money to Democrats, governments that gave money to Republicans. That would unravel a lot of things. That would become a problem for the Democrats. That could not happen. A problem for the Republicans that would have unseated people. They'd have to have people resign. So they had to eat some crow. But in our course of our daily lives, 99.999% of us wouldn't be affected if the information was released or wasn't released. In essence, you wouldn't be affected. But if you lost some political weight that you needed, and now a defense company closes down, or a food processor closes down, well, then you just got affected. So it has tentacles. And Trump was told, you release this, it's going to be a problem for your party more than it is going to be a party for the Democrats. So, because you're the people in power right now, and, you could probably lose more seats than they lost, because they've already lost those seats, and you'd have new Democrats coming up going, they're the problem. They're the problem. We got it right there. So, Trump going, let's just forget it. Well, you can't. Can't put the toothpaste back in the tube. But you could just say, there's not a list, but the information contained there can be used by the Department in the future, Department of Justice in the future. And if we release it now, there it goes. And, under advisement, can't do it. And you still have Ghislaine Maxwell, who's asking, hey, if you have nothing, if there's no list, if there's nothing, and you were putting me in here because you said I had a list or I knew a list, and there is no list, I'd like another hearing, please. And that won't happen either, because, dead men tell no tales. And Epstein's not dead. That's coming from me. So, all right. Major problems here with my live feed. I see it stopping, and there's some 10-second jolts. Also problems with the feed that I'm feeding Facebook at the same time, and I did not mean to send out a Facebook feed at the same time. So, bad me, and I'm sure that's what's causing some problems. Okay, let's go to the next one. And this is from Fox News. And I go between Fox and MSNBC and Yahoo and The Beast and The Hill and The Guardian and everything else. I hit all the news to get a prospectus on what is, what are the facts, and are the facts being reported from this place the same as the facts going from the other place? And for the most part, they do, with the exception of a few, and when I catch them, I point it out. And it's always the words after the facts by any of these news medias that then can sway the agenda and their opinion. And news is best served like food. There, you know what you like, and they know what you like, and they're going to serve it to you in that manner. And they're not going to switch it up too much. They're not going to add too many other ingredients to it because they want you eating from their plates every night. And that goes for Fox, and that goes for MSNBC, and further down the rung from there. That's how they make money, folks. Eyeballs. Eyeballs. And the advertisers, and they can go and look how many people watch the show. I mean, I was kind of shocked at the numbers that Maddow has. I looked at him. I go, that she doesn't have 20 million viewers. I mean, Big Bang Theory didn't have 20 million viewers. So numbers lie. Liars always figures, and figures always lie. So, all right. So, Fox News, Greg Jarrett predicts judge's anti-ICE ruling, this is in California, is heading for the dustbin. And Fox News legal analyst Greg Jarrett said Monday that raids by the United States Immigration and Customs Enforcement, ICE, including one on a cannabis farm in California, are within the parameters of the Fourth Amendment. Remember, and I discussed this. I said the Fourth and Fifth Amendments are extremely important to everyone. And in that, he said one person fired at the ICE agents with a pistol when ICE raided the California marijuana farm after obtaining a warrant with the FBI offering $50,000 reward for information leading to the suspect's identification, arrest, and conviction. That's how they get out of paying that, just so you know. Jarrett said that the orders from the United States District Judge Mimi Frimpong of the Central District of California for ICE to cease its operation would likely be overturned on appeals. And I said the same thing. I said it probably would. There are elements to her argument that if you looked at it on the basis of just what she had said, you might go, oh, yeah, well, that makes sense. You know, people shouldn't be stopped because they speak Spanish, or they have brown skin, or they have blue eyes, or shouldn't be stopped for that. But she left off the rest of the facts that were presented to her on why these raids are taking place. And she left that off. So her ruling, sounded like, well, all right. I mean, if that's what they're doing, and it wasn't what they were doing. So I think the actions, and this is Jarrett saying that, I think the actions of ICE are in satisfaction of the Fourth Amendment. And that he told to co-host Lawrence Jones. The judge's order is based on the assumption that people are being stopped or detained solely based on race or speaking Spanish or being present at a particular location. And I doubt that that's going to hold up in the appeals. And he said the ruling was overbroad. On another note, the judge, she admits that ICE is authorized to conduct deportations. The only question is whether they have what's called reasonable suspicion that suspects are here illegally. Well, that is a very low threshold. and it's below probable cause. Remember, I talked about probable cause as being one of the actions for the police to act without a warrant. Because normally, if you're going to be arrested, they need a warrant for your arrest. If there is no warrant, the only way the police can make an arrest is if they witness a criminal activity in the process, just like someone robbing a bank. They don't have a warrant. They go in there, they capture the person, and they charge him with, bank robbery or stealing at a liquor store. And they walk out, and there he is with a gun, and bang, 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 there's a gunfight, and the guy's dead. And they go, well, what was your probable cause? Well, he just robbed a liquor store, came out, and then shot at me, and I returned fire, and I dispatched him or her. There you go. So, he said when, for example, ICE retains reliable evidence that a business is employing illegal migrants, they already have a reasonable suspicion when they arrive. Then they question the workers, they secure further evidence. All of that supports then their arrest, and I wouldn't say arrest, but detain, they're detained, and that conforms with the law. So this may be another example of a judge whose political bias is influencing her decision. So what Jarrett is saying is that in the past years, we have this farmer has used illegals because we've caught illegals. Other agents, other people have caught it. So we know that he hires these people. That gives us the right to go and sniff around. And we're not there because they're Spanish, or they're brown, or they are Latin, or they speak Spanish. We're there because they hire illegals. And if we found an illegal who was Hans Schickelgruber, and he was there illegally, in this country illegally, we'd arrest him too. But we didn't. We didn't find that. We found, some people had green cards, some people had work visas, and they weren't detained. The people that couldn't prove that they were here, yeah, they get detained. They couldn't prove they could, were you born here? No. All right, where'd you come from? Do you have a visa? Do you have that? No. And some who were detained did have those things, but it wasn't with them, which they were supposed to have. And the employer is supposed to get verification of that. So, hey, you're the employer here? Oh, you have their visa application, you have their green card application, you have or their green card information, or their right to work here? There's a lot of people have that. The farm union was very big in making sure that these people obtain the proper documents to work. Employer can't provide it either. off you go, and then we'll figure it out later. But for now, off you go. So, uh, this judge, Frimpong, ordered ICE not to stop or detain people without reasonable suspicion. They had reasonable suspicion that a person is in the United States illegally, nor can they do so based on race, speaking Spanish, or due to them being in a specific location. Now, see, that is a very broad thing. Well, a house is a specific location. I can't go to their house and make an arrest. So, this judge's ruling was fakaka. And now, what happens, you're going to have a higher court go, no. And now they can't go back to that. That's it. That's a ruling by a higher court. If it's appealed and they win and ICE wins the appeal. If ICE loses the appeal, then they can start taking it up the steps, finally to the robes. They can do that too. This, any group that wants to pick it up and fling it up to the robes to say, no, they were doing it based on this and only this. But a person who was born here could say, I was born here. I have a birth certificate. I can prove a birth certificate. And chances are those people, if you spoke English and you could pass the muster, or the employer had your birth certificate and stuff. I had to give all that stuff when I got employed anywhere. I had to show a social security card. I had to show a birth certificate to prove that I was born in the United States, which under the 14th Amendment is being used as the die test for such. So it's been done. I think that this judge did let her political bias, or she just did a really lousy job. And judges can do that. Judges can go, in my world here, I am the queen. I am the king. And for the most part, that really is the truth. Judges have a lot of discretionary powers. More than you think that they'd be allowed to do. And most judges, 99% of the judges, don't push that. They don't, use that as a weapon or tool, but it's in their tool bag. And they could, if they needed to, under certain circumstances, say, I'm detaining you for, what do they call it? When you break the rules of the courts, I'm going to detain you. And they could hold you. They could hold you in contempt. That's the word I was looking for. And fine you. And you have to go through the hoopla of going through all that. And you've heard judges, at trials sometimes and on TV, and they go, one more word out of you, I'm holding you in $500 contempt. And the lawyer goes, $500, I'll give it right now. Well, good, bailiff. Charging him with contempt, it's $500. Pay the bailiff. Well, I don't have it on me right now. Take him to the holding tank. Now, that in real life doesn't happen very often. A judge would then go, at this point in time, I'm going to have the jurors leave the court. Boom, boom, boom. They are escorted out. And then the fight begins. And usually it's not on the floor, it's in chamber, or in what's called a sidebar. And then, because judge doesn't want to see the jurors to see that and then get some type of idea in their head. So they'll remove the jurors. Very rare does a judge make a snap decision like that in front of jurors, because that's be bad. All right. Biden's chief of staff reportedly gave approval for auto pen pardons on final day in office. Again, I know the auto pen, and I don't know what the chain of command would be, where if I would have to have that in writing that I gave this person, President John Costa, authorizes person X to execute on my behalf the auto pen to facilitate pardons, blah, 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 according to blah, 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 and he signs off on it, well, that's fine. That's fine. I don't see anything wrong with that. Delegating people down to it. But former President Joe Biden's chief of staff issued final approval for multiple high-profile preemptive pardons during Biden's final day in its office, according to a new report. And I did forget where I got this from. I could look it back up. Some of this was in New York Times articles, and other parts were maybe CNN, maybe Fox again. But so Biden allegedly use of the auto pen has become a sticking point for months, as President Donald Trump has said thousands of pardons Biden signed were void, and claimed that the former president did not know what documents he was signing through the automated device. President Biden, issued a series of preemptive pardons on his final days to officials, including, former chief medical advisor to the president, Anthony Fauci, and former chairman of Joint Chiefs, General Mark Milley, in an attempt to safeguard them from retribution from Trump. Now, what retribution could Trump have done if he didn't do anything illegal? The administration or the Department of Justice could look at things and say, hey, you bring your lawyer, just got to clarify some facts here. And the lawyer could go for Milley, nope, he ain't answering them. Well, that's what you're telling me. We want to hear it from him. He comes in, pleads the fifth. All right. Well, we can't go any further because he's not talking. Well, he doesn't have to incriminate himself. So, in an article intended to be to his defense for the auto pen issue, it emerged that although Biden reportedly made the decision in a meeting, Biden's chief of staff Jeff Zients is the one who gave final approval for the use of the auto pen, at least in the case of Fauci and Miley, the New York Times reported. So, he was the one who said, use the auto pen. It did not come from the president. It came from him, which, again, if Biden had a piece of paper that he signed that, I give the act in my stay during my time in office, blah, blah, I can't, whatever legal mumbo jumbo that would have given the chief of staff the right to the auto pen, saying that, yes, he's going to issue 2 pardons. One for Miley, one for Fauci, and these are the bullet points. On Biden's final day as president, Biden had a meeting with his aides until 10 p.m. to talk about various preemptive pardons. Emails obtained by the Times show that an aide sent a summary draft of the decision formalized during that meeting to Jeff Zients' assistant at 10:03 p.m. The assistant sent the email to Zients and others present in the meeting, requesting approval from Zients and the White House Deputy Chief of Staff, Bruce Reed, at 10:28 p.m. Zients replied all to the emails 3 minutes later. I approve the use of the auto pen for the execution of all the following pardons. Bum, 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 it went on. And Zients could not be, this was Fox News Digital, who quoted out of the New York Times, who blah, 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 who I'm also doing, could not be reached for a comment. That Zients could not be reached for a comment since then. Additionally, the Times report said Biden did not personally approve each name included in the broad category of pardons. Rather, after extensive discussion of different possible criteria, he signed off on the standard he wanted to be used to determine which convicts would qualify for a reduction in sentence. So, he didn't approve. He just said, if it meets this template, you can go ahead and decide who gets it. I don't know if that's allowed. I don't know that that's allowed. Because it's like a contract that had blanks in it, and they're having him sign a blank. That is extremely questionable. And if you go now and question why didn't Biden do this himself? Why didn't they have a meeting where they presented here's all 1,500 pardons that he said he personally did. Well, now he didn't. When asked about the Times report, Trump told reporters at the White House on Monday that Biden's alleged use of the auto pen amounted to possibly one of the biggest scandals that we've had in 50 to 100 years. Trump went on to say, I guarantee you he knew nothing about what he was signing. I guarantee you. Again, Trump said. Additionally, the White House said the report shed light on Biden's trustworthiness and accused the Biden administration of engaging in a cover-up. So, the auto pen has come back to haunt them. And as it should, because that was really, a bad, really a bad show of executive leadership, or the lack of it. And maybe Biden was not capable of making those decisions on his own and had to have people step in and do it for him. But in the end, you know, he could authorize, but I don't think authorizing blank pardons, which is a contract, I don't think that was allowed. I think would they had them filled out and go, these are all of them, sir. Now auto pen them, authorize the auto pen, and we'll get these done. That might be, but just to say these are the criteria and you pick and choose who you want. And no, no, that can't be. That's not the president exercising his power to personally make these confirmations. How could he have done it? It is baloney in its worst form. And I think that is a major problem. I think you know, President Trump, I tell you all the time to call me at a later date. Some people. With that, I'm going to say good night. This is 11 a.m. It's 11, almost 15. I got a lot to do today. So this is going to go up later. The live format goes up immediately the minute I hit I'm done. And we can go from there to the edited one that will go up probably after 9 p.m. tonight. Because tonight is Tuesday, and that is card night for the fat guy. And I like playing cards. I'm okay with it, playing cards. I don't consider myself the hustler, you know, or a card shark. I just like playing and convincing with the guys. All right. You know how I end it. If you can, give to a charity of your choice. You go to that charity. Don't have that charity come to you. Don't become a victim helping a victim. If you're not comfortable with that or you don't want to do that, give food to a local food bank. Give clothing, toiletries, women's toiletries, diapers, bottles, whatever you can, give to a local community center, a church, mosque, whatever it is that you want to do. But do it. I say, you go to the store, you see buy one, get one free, and you were going to buy it anyway. Well, buy it, take that free one, put it away, and when you get a nice amount, that, you know, a little box full, you bring it over. What a great way to help people. Prayer, say a prayer. Prayer does work. And with that, I'm going to catch you all later. I'm going to fade to black and edit all this out later. All right, catch you later as I fade to black.